what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy
The quarterback that plays for LSU, that's going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. We already know that, and probably going to win the Heisman Trophy. So very excited for that. As much as I love Army-Navy, and it's one of the best things, again, that we have in college athletics, if you've never done it, check it off your bucket list. It is well worth it. It doesn't matter where the game is. It's worth the cost as well. Like whatever it costs to get to that game, if you love college football, you will love going to that game. But if I had to miss it, the one thing I don't mind missing it for is to see an LSU player potentially win a Heisman Trophy for the second time since 2019. Second time that you will have a Heisman Trophy winner, right? You only had one in your history before. Now, guys have gotten close. There's a lot of guys that finished second in Heisman voting. But you only had one. You had Billy Cannon. And you had Joe Burrow. And you're wondering, man, when's this going to happen again? Like you didn't feel like you were going to go, however, what was it, 50-something years between Heisman winners, but you didn't. Like, come on, we didn't think it'd be 2019, then 2023, but now here you are in that position. And I bring it up to kind of ask this question to the fellas, to you inside the Bayou Ford chat, to you listening in, if you want to hit us up on Twitter. What would you like to see LSU do now to parlay this success into the future? Now, national championship is the obvious one, but I'm talking about also just bringing in these type of players. When you have Heisman Trophy winners 2 of the last 5 years, right, you have to use that to your advantage in every single possible way. Look at the run Oklahoma had, right? You go Baker, you go Kyler, and you go Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen didn't win it, but Jalen went to Oklahoma because, well, he saw Kyler and he saw Baker go there from Texas Tech, from Texas A&M, win Heisman trophies playing a playoff. Now, you couldn't find their defense with a search warrant, so they didn't win in the playoff, right? And we can see that in a couple of different places, right? So you have to, have team success, but you open yourself up to players that you didn't have a path to before. That's why Jayden Daniels is here. He saw what Joe Burrow did, right? And that's no disrespect to any other quarterback that's come in here as a transfer. I'm not throwing shade at Andrew Hatch or Danny Etling or any of these other quarterbacks. I mean, Danny served his time as an LSU starting quarterback. He had big moments as an LSU starting quarterback. But you open yourself up to bring in elite players, superstar players, guys with the highest potential. After you won in 2019, you had 2 500 years after that. That should not be the case. You should take a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and you should parlay that into team success. You should make this the ultimate destination for players to want to come to. If you can say, hey, look, you want to come here, if you want to win a Heisman, you want to be a first-round draft choice at quarterback, different staffs too, right? Yeah, Joe Burrow come over from Ohio State, wasn't playing at all, comes down to LSU, 1 year wins a Fiesta Bowl, the next year wins a national championship, #1 overall pick. Jayden Daniels, right, had moments at Arizona State, ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, whatever you want to use. Okay, well, he comes here in the first year. It actually was pretty good. I mean, I know we talk about it being inconsistent. You beat Alabama. You have some major wins. You get to Atlanta for an SEC championship game. And then you parlay that into what he did this year. Now, the team success wasn't the same because you had one of the worst defenses in the country. But what he did, it opens up. Like now, that's why you have the 2025 #1 quarterback in the country highly interested in LSU. Right? That's why when you see the transfer portal open up and quarterbacks are in it, even though Garrett Nussmeier is the presumed starter at the position, guys still want to talk to LSU, right? So you have to, off of this, you have to continue the success because it starts at quarterback, but then where does it go? Well, it trickles down to receiver, running back, and offensive line, and maybe, just maybe, you can get some defensive players in here as well. But how would you not look at what LSU's done this year on offense with the quarterback, with 2 of the best receivers, 2 of the best 5 receivers in the country, and not want to be a part of that, right? Because that's something you built. But now you've got to go achieve that success, keep that the same, and you've got to improve the other side of the football. But if we're staying with offense here, one of the positions that's the deepest is receiver. You're about to lose 2 first-rounders. But now, because of what you've done on the field, you can bring in almost any player that you want. You have developed in college football 4 of the best receivers, I'd say, in the last 3 decades of college football. Jefferson, Chase, Thomas, Neighbors, right? They're different. They're not like the others. So when you do things like that, you've got to make that become the norm in Baton Rouge. You have to bring in players like that because they saw what happened before them, right? LSU did not do a good job of that last time, right? It took a couple years to get back to that. I'd love to see LSU take this momentum, create that same momentum in high school recruiting, close out this class a little bit ahead of where you are right now, be highly active in the transfer portal, because if I'm a quarterback and I'm a receiver, why in the hell would I not go to LSU right now after what I've seen there? So, fellas, I'll throw this to y'all. I mean, what do y'all think? What should LSU do? What would be the main goal if you were LSU after having 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks in a short period?
Yeah, go get more, and go get more skill players on offense, like you said, that will want to come here now. Like, that stigma of what LSU was for quarterbacks like 10 years ago, completely gone.
Graveyard.
Yes, and hopefully you parlay that into more, transfer quarterbacks and skill players. I do hope we fix our defense, though. Like you said, you want the team success ultimately. The last thing I want is for LSU to be USC, Oklahoma, get all these awards, but not win championships, which is what LSU is about. But ultimately very beneficial for LSU.
Yeah, Jake, you said earlier, keep the try to limit the peaks and valleys, and that's what you got to do. You've had success here your first 2 years under the Brian Kelly regimen on the offensive side of the football. Now, last year on defense wasn't as bad as this year. Look, you keep this thing rolling. Right. You bring in quarterbacks. Now, if you bring in a quarterback like this every single year, you're almost guaranteed to have a pretty good offense. Then you can focus on the defensive side of the football, have that success going. Also, don't get complacent with something like this. You haven't won anything yet. I think you can win a national championship with Brian Kelly at LSU. That's his ultimate goal. Last time we saw success like this, even more so, because Burrow wins the Heisman, but you had a national championship as well. There was a lot of complacency in Baton Rouge after that. Yeah. Fans, coaches, players, whatever you want to call it, you can't get that. You got to look at it as like, this is a stepping stone. You win the Heisman Trophy. You have a lot of publicity to your program. Everything's going in a positive direction right now, but you're not a finished product. You still have to fix that defense. Like, this is a stepping stone along the way. You can't get complacent because you can only go up from here. So that's what I want to see. I want to see this as like a big step towards your ultimate goal.
And when you look at what LSU's done over the last 25 years, I mean, they've won the second most national titles. I mean, they have been one of the standards of college football, certainly a pillar of college football. How could you not be? I mean, it's about championships, and you've won 3, right? Only Alabama's won more. Georgia's won 2, Clemson's won 2, Ohio State's won 2, others have won 2, you've won 3. You've played for 4, by the way. You had another opportunity if 2011 goes a different way. But when you look at what LSU's done after those seasons, like, so we're talking about individually, like what you should do, and also team success after you have momentum. Let's go to 2004. I was part of that team. We were good. We were a good football team. We lost some really close games, but we were 9-3. We finished 16th in the country after a national championship, right? Finished top 10. You look at 2007. We won a national championship. What'd you do the next year? You were 8-5. You're 3-5 in conference play. You finish unranked, all right? So, 2011, you have that success. And the next year, you finished right outside the top 10, but you finished 13th, right? You don't finish in the top 10. Parlay that into a better year the next year, 2019. Best team that maybe we've ever seen. You finish unranked in 20 and 21, the next 2 seasons after that. So you have to build off this success. Nothing in the rule book says that it has to be uber successful, drop off. Uber successful, drop off. And I'm not saying that LSU hasn't been consistent, right? We could go from 2010, right? 8th, 2011, 2nd, that 13th that I talked about in 12, 14th and 13. It's okay. It's okay, but it's not to the standard of what you can be, right? So even though I think you've been one of the best programs in college football the last 25 years, put it together for multiple years, right? And you're kind of in the middle of that right now, right? You're starting this process. Your foundation crumbled And now you're building this foundation back up. All right. You're building it up. And last year was a big step. This year, depending on who you ask, look, you can go a lot of different ways. But if you win the Heisman Trophy, if you go out there, you blow out Wisconsin in a bowl game, maybe you finish top 10, and that's continuing to at least stay in that conversation, right? Continue to build that foundation where if you win a national championship, you know what you are the next year? You're a top 5 team because you're in it. You still have the ability. And I know it's about to change with the 12-team playoff, and it gives you even more opportunities to be relevant and to be elite, not just be good. So that's something that you win another Heisman Trophy. I would love to see from LSU just continue to build and continue to be consistent. You don't have to have flashes. We used to make the joke, every 4 years, LSU is going to be in a national championship in New Orleans. It's going to happen. And I mean, it kind of worked out that way for a long time, but it doesn't have to be the case. You're LSU. You're those 3 letters. You're those 2 colors. You can be great and elite every single year. And so that's what, like, an individual award can really do that, because it's the biggest individual award at the biggest position, and it opens up doors to you to almost everything that you want. And also, like, to go back to the Garrett Nussmeier conversation, I will have full disclosure here. I want Garrett Nussmeier to win the starting job. I want him to be the quarterback of LSU for the next 2 years, and I want him to be as successful as any quarterback's been, because I can appreciate during a time in which every quarterback hits the transfer portal, even ones that just went 11-1 at Ohio State, even ones that just had a monster year at Oklahoma, even ones that transferred to go play lacrosse at a school that they used to play football in, whatever the case might be, Garrett Nussmeier did not take his ball and go home. Garrett Nussmeier didn't go try to chase NIL money somewhere. And again, if you do that, do you, right? These guys are making more money than I made in a 6-year NFL career combined. Go do you. It's not always going to be there. You can do that. But for me, I can still appreciate the fact that he said, no, I'm an LSU Tiger. That if I make an impact in college football, it's going to be in those colors, with that uniform, with those 3 letters on my chest. So you bet I'm rooting like hell for Garrett Nussmeier to go win this job and be the quarterback that a lot of us think that he can be in the future. But it doesn't mean you don't bring in competition. And if you know Garrett Nussmeier, and even if you don't, I'll tell you, he ain't going to shy away from it. It's not going to be something that hinders him. I think it's going to bring out another version of Garrett Nussmeier, one that we know is in there. We just hadn't seen it because he hasn't been the starter before, where he's going to raise his level of play, right? If you ever talk to this young man, he's uber confident, and not in a cocky way, but because he knows the work that he's put in to be this type of quarterback. So why would you not go bring in somebody to push him, bring out the best version of him? He ain't going to shy away from it, right? He's not going to pout that you brought somebody else in. He's not going to put his name in the portal because you brought somebody else in. It's only going to make him better. It goes back to the line that my dad gave me when I committed to LSU, or when I was, right there and kind of making the decision after I got the offer. I'm highly excited. I remember, God, Dad, I'm looking at the roster. Justin Vincent just had one of the best freshman years of all time at the running back position. Joseph Adai he's a young player. He's a sophomore. He's going to be a first-round pick later on in his career. Shiron Carey, right? Big moments already in an LSU uniform. Barrington Edwards was a big-time recruit from Maryland. Ali Broussard just ran all over South Carolina and all these other teams. I'm like, man, Dad, these guys are sophomores or younger. Like, what do you think? And y'all have heard me say it before, but it was the most impactful thing maybe my dad ever said to me. He looked me in the eyes and said, if you're scared of competition, change your last name. And that's the way that I think Garrett Nussmeier thinks. He's a son of a coach. He knows the deal, and I cannot wait to see what his future brings. And I still think, again, you bring somebody in to make that future even brighter and better.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.